Welcome to the Sharkpreneur Podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Green. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Green is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Green. Today, I have the good fortune to be joined by Andrew Seidman from the Digital Reach Agency. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Seth. Thanks for having me.
All right. Likewise. So let's dive in. How did you get started?
My story is a little unusual. Originally, I was a high-stakes professional poker player for many years. So I started playing poker in high school, basically, and got pretty good in college, and then started kind of self-promoting a lot of things around the poker world. Like I wrote a book and put it on Amazon, most of those places like that. Like I was doing instructional coaching, that kind of thing. So that was sort of my career until 2011 when the feds shut down internet poker and like kind of literally killed it overnight. So I woke up one day and I lost my job and all my money. And so it was kind of like, okay, what am I going to do next? Went on a road trip with a friend of mine who had just gotten out of working at a really crummy marketing agency in LA. And we were kind of talking about, how to do it better. He was already sort of going off on his own. And I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'll tag along. And then before you know it, you just get hooked into it. Like you've got a little bit of traction, a little bit of, so get some customer attention, some product market fit. You start getting paid some, you start getting asked, hey, can we spend more money with you? And so before you know it, you're running a business.
Awesome. I am sure the longer version of that could probably be in a book somewhere if it isn't already.
Yeah.
A follow-up to the poker book. Now you're playing digital poker, right?
More or less.
How did those experiences kind of shape your perspective on marketing and operations?
Well, I think one of the major things that you learn in gambling is that results are disparate from process, which is to say that some people play badly and win, and some people play great and lose. And so if you wanted to know, like often people would ask me like, oh, is so-and-so good at poker? And my answer would usually be, I need to hear them talk, which is to say like good sound process is usually reflected more in the way somebody behaves and thinks and talks than it is like whether or not they closed a bunch of business this period or not. I think you see this often with like multiple time entrepreneurs where like the first time they like landed right on product market fit and they think they're like God's gift to entrepreneurship. And then the second time it's really hard. It's like, oh, it turns out like it's, a little bit of luck goes a long way, but you have to be both lucky and good if you want to do this over and over again. So I think some of it was like focusing in on process and being kind of averse to like results orientation, like caring less about whether or not we had a good quarter or a bad quarter, caring more about like, is my team good? Like, are our processes good? Those kinds of questions. So I think that's been a huge one. And then I feel like also just generally being tolerant of risk, like understanding that okay, I'm going to make a hire. Like I'm going to spend a ton of money hiring someone. It's not 100% to work out. Even if I do all the things perfectly, like it's still a gamble. Maybe they'll be a great hire, maybe they won't. And I kind of like program that into my model, if that makes sense, of like how I expect the whole business and entrepreneurship thing to function.
Yeah, and a fellow poker player, Andy Duke, has a great book out, Thinking Bets. And I would be very curious to see how you apply that gambling and betting methodology to betting on your clients and betting on ad platforms and betting on campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you accept that the world is competitive and chaotic, that there's like a mix of randomness that's been put into this thing, and like you're fighting over market share, let's say, in a contained but often changing and expanding environment, everything that you're making is a bet. In fact, there's a really good book that I like that's not even about this exactly, but it's called 4,000 Weeks. It's like a philosophical book about like uh, originally efficiency, but like also like how to live your life when you know you're going to die. And the basic idea of it is everything in life is a trade. You're always making a bet. Like you're making a bet that this company is going to work out better than that company would, or that this job would be better than that, or that this partner is better than that partner, or whatever it might be. That this thing on the lunch menu is going to be better than that thing on the lunch menu. And I think getting in the habit of understanding, like, and accepting on a deep level that you can't do everything, that you're not going to win every decision, like you're never going to be perfectly selecting the perfect item on the lunch menu every time, that you actually like can be a little bit more clear-headed and focused on like how you're going to make your bets. Like, what is it that, like, if I evaluate all these things and I accept I can't be perfect, like, what is the right choice to make? And so really kind of a philosophical approach, I guess.
That's awesome. So who's my ideal client for digital reach?
We work with two kind of core ICPs. The we'll call like large enterprises. So these are really, really big, like global enterprises, companies like Cisco, VMware, those kinds of companies that we work with. They tend to be great customers, super long time horizons, very strategic stuff, but they've also got like a ton of bureaucracy. And so like you got to kind of like trudge through them. The other kind of core group of customers that we work with are generally what we would consider to be like well-funded startups. Usually like our kind of rough benchmark is 50 million a year or more in ARR or 50 million a year in funding, or sorry, 50 million in funding rather. And that's like a soft guideline, but it's basically like people who are trying to grow. It's like, hey, we have aggressive targets. We need to get a bunch of booked meetings on the calendar. We need to get a bunch of closed pipeline in our books so we can raise the next round and go fast. Those ones tend to have a bunch of money to spend and are like really geared up to go. They tend to be like very fun organizations to work with, and that like you're not tied up in red tape. You actually just build stuff. On the other hand, it's super stressful because it's like if we don't hit our targets, we're all going to die. So it's I would say it's those two are like the main ones we work with.
What are some of the biggest issues that you're helping them solve?
Well, the main issue, there's one issue that they're all trying to solve, and that is we want more business. Like we want to get more pipeline. I would say at this stage of our maturity, it's mostly about helping them understand what does that actually mean. A lot of people come to marketing agencies and especially come to us and we'll say like, here's a bunch of money, put it onto advertisements, make us pipeline. And it took us a pretty long time, kind of sadly, way too long to figure out that you can't just do that. You can if there's like the stars align and you got kind of lucky and product market fits there and the messaging's really good and all that stuff. But most of the time it's like, oh, we don't have a real marketing program. And so we just are hoping that money will buy us out of this on ads. Whereas like the actual stuff that goes to a good go-to-market, we help people see that it's like, okay, what's your brand? What's your content? What's your message? What's your website? Like your web experience? Are you qualifying yourself or disqualifying yourself? And then like how do your backend systems, like how does your data work? Like will you be able to know what's working and not working? Will you make sure that if you spend $5,000 for a sales qualified lead, that those are even like a really good marketing qualified lead, that those aren't just getting dropped in the system and like no one ever talks to them? And so like solving these kind of systems problems and like kind of I don't know, almost like philosophical problems are often like what really then makes advertising programs really successful. So we take this approach. We kind of like look at the whole thing. We do a 360. Kind of our flagship thing is called the go-to-market roadmap. And we give you kind of like this prioritized plan of how you're going to go and actually drive pipeline. But that's the question on everyone's mind is like more business, better business. How do we get it?
That makes a lot of sense. You talk about integrated B2B digital strategies. What does that mean to you, and why is that integration so important?
Yeah, so I think like I sort of outlined it in a small way a minute ago in this idea of like, hey, you have these, we kind of bucket them into these four components of brand and content, digital experience, RevOps, and pipeline gen. And like these are all things that are they're all rowing on the same boat. And if you don't have, if one of them's not rowing, you're gonna start spinning in circles, basically. And so you kind of need everything to be collaborative. This becomes very difficult as different teams have different incentives. The bigger you get, like the more hard it is to like share context between these teams. So a lot of what we do is we break down those silos such that your RevOps person who's operating, let's say in your CRM, and your advertiser who needs lists from the CRM, and your brand person who's actually creating the messaging that's going to end up on the ad, like that all of them are working together to do this. And then you can go one step further and say that the campaigns then themselves are going to become super multi-channel. So you're going to have this, now you've got all this stuff like everyone's working together to build this campaign, but now it's going to go out not just in like a Google environment, it's going to be on search, it's going to be on social, programmatic, like it's going to be a part of your brand kind of everywhere that you go.
Awesome. You mentioned VMware. Can you talk a little bit about the work you did with that multi-channel integrated campaign in Tanzu and how it worked out? Because it's an incredible case study.
Yeah. First of all, I just a quick shout out to the people over there. Like some of the best human beings we ever worked with that were part of that kind of family tree. And so I think like cultural alignment matters a ton. With VMware, we were both doing kind of a traditional demand gen approach, which was like, let's get as many qualified leads in the business as we can. But we also got brought in to do like basically to reconstruct the ABM program, or at least like assist them in reconstructing it. So this is kind of what I mean about how it's all integrated. Like we were getting our hands super dirty, rebuilding the data systems and demand base and like in the interaction between demand base and Salesforce and Marketo. And then at the same time, we were also like getting those audiences into advertising programs on LinkedIn, and like building out kind of like the right targeting for these different audiences. And so we actually kind of like, and then at the end of the day, we built these like pretty badass like BI reports. So you could really look at us, look at the top level of this and say, wow, okay, like we're running these campaigns based on these audiences, and like here's what's happening at these accounts. You can really even like zoom in specifically, like, oh, we've engaged the senior manager and the director of IT, but now we need the CISO and we need the head of security. And like we can see those people's names even to the point where it's like, okay, our marketing and sales teams are going to go after like relationship building with these people. So I think, it was really like kind of the definition of an end-to-end program.
That's awesome. You've achieved so much success. What's your biggest challenge now?
Ooh, good question. I'll answer, I'll cheat and I'll say two different things. One of them is, as our company has grown, my role has migrated some from being like really a strategist or a strategy leader to like a personnel leader, which was it was a sneaky shift that I wasn't really expecting, but it's a really different job. And so I think I've put a lot of work in on just like how do I become a better leader for the company as opposed to just like a better strategist. So that's been, I would say, one big challenge. And the other one is we talk a lot about scaling right now, and we just run into these indigestion problems. Like we were joking, we really believe strongly in feedback, like core organizational principle, and we developed this new method for getting good feedback, and we really, really was successful. Like we got a ton of valuable feedback from our team, but it was like we ended up with this list of like 80 improvements to make to the business. And we're like kind of looking around, just like, how are we going to do any of this in the next like 5 years, let alone like fast enough that our team today will appreciate it. And so we've been really working on like, okay, how do we scale? Like, how do we get this thing moving at a much faster way without freaking everyone out in the company and making everyone hate their lives? Like, there's got to be some method to it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I love the people, man. Like I think one of my favorite things that happened with our company in the last couple of years is we really focused in on like working with the right clients who I consider to be friends. Like we did a cool dinner. It was Ad Week in New York last week, and we did a cool dinner with some of our clients. And I was like joking that we have like a friendship led business model. That it's like not even like a corporate thing. It's just like I'll go get a beer with these people for fun. And so I think at this juncture, both the team that we've assembled is just really outstanding internally, but also we work with people that I genuinely like. And so it just ends up feeling, I don't know, like really energizing and positive, and like our clients get a lot out of it. And it's a great place to work for sure.
That is awesome. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more about all things Andrew and Digital Reach, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, find me at LinkedIn to start. You just Andrew Seidman on LinkedIn. And then on our website, you can go to digitalreachagency.com. We did just add this very cool, it's still pretty preliminary, but we redid our homepage to install an AI assistant, like an LLM that knows our brand. So if you want to come in, you have any questions about DRA, about myself personally, or other team members, or projects, or capabilities, it's just a fun thing to go play around with. You just ask the AI assistant some questions, and it'll tell you some answers.
That is awesome. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. This has been Seth Green for Sharkpreneur with Andrew Seidman. Andrew, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.